Hi, I'm Paul.
Hi, I'm Xander.
And we're back to take you on a
Butte
Heritage Hunt. It's Halloween.
Where the veil between the dead and the living become thin.
In some countries, people use Halloween as a special time to visit the dead.
So, this week, we're going to visit a host of Butte folk, including a knight, a prime minister, a bishop, 3 earls, several ladies, a descendant of William Wallace, and a common man rumoured to be pickled in rum.
It's not another Saturday morning at the Co-op, is it?
No, this week we're looking at
Rothesay High Kirk Graveyard. St Mary's Kirk was built at some point in the early 14th century and may have been intended to serve as the cathedral for a diocese which stretched all the way from the Isle of Man up to the Southern Hebrides.
And inside the earliest graves are 2 amazing sculptures.
The knight's tomb bears the crest of the Royal House of Stuart, and so he was probably part of that family. Some people have speculated that it may even be the father of the first Stuart King of Scotland, Robert II, given the strong connections to the island. The lady is sadly unknown.
The biggest tomb in the graveyard is this, the Butte Mausoleum, built at the start of the 18th century.
The mausoleum was built by the Bute family and contains the remains of the 1st, 2nd and 3rd Earls of Bute.
The first Earl was involved in the negotiations Act of Union between Scotland and England, whilst the second Earl built the first version of Mount Stuart House.
It's the 3rd Earl that is perhaps the best known though, as the friend and mentor of George III and the first Scottish Prime Minister after the Act of Union.
Montague Street in Rothesay is named after his wife, Mary Watley Montague, who was one of the first people in the UK vaccinated against smallpox, thanks to her quite amazing mother, but that's probably another story.
The graveyard itself is the resting place of many other people who helped shape the Bute and Rothesay that we know today.
This tomb marks the grave of Robert Tom. In the early 19th century, Tom and his partner William Kelly bought over the bankrupt Rothesay Cotton Mill.
Tom was an engineer, and by creating a huge network of ditches, he managed to channel thousands of gallons of water into the Kirk Dam and down the Lade to power the cotton mills.
This allowed the cotton mills to compete with the mainland mills, and by the mid-1800s, the mill employed over 1/3 of the working population of the island.
Other people buried here include John Blaine, who oversaw the transformation of Rothesay from a small declining medieval rural town into a Victorian holiday powerhouse.
James Dobby, who started a small seed and plant nursery business on the island, which grew into what the Dobby's garden chain we know today, is also buried here.
As is Robert Wallace, owner of Bush House and Provost of Rothesay between 1727 and 1738. He claimed to be a direct descendant of William Wallace.
The various separate areas for famous and misbeat families are also visible from the name of the headstones: the McKinleys, the Duncans, the McCurdys, the McAllisters and the Stewarts.
Perhaps the oldest marker in the graveyard is this one, which marks the resting place of the MacNeils of Kilmorey. It was said to have been moved from Meikle Kilmorey Castle on the other side of the island. The MacNeils were the hereditary crowners of Bute, who helped the medieval sheriff in his duties.
The most famous tomb in the cemetery, though, at this one, James Duncan, roamed better to generate her children for that.
Duncan was a merchant who made his money in Valparaiso in Chile, an important trading city in the 19th century. He was so wealthy that he left bequests for the University of Glasgow and a fund for women of good character in Rothesay. He also built this tomb from bronze and granite.
His death place is officially recorded in London, but the local story is that he died in Valparaiso. To get his body home across the Atlantic, he was preserved in a barrel of rum.
And it's also said that the sailors on that journey couldn't resist a free tot of rum, and by the time the ship got to London, the barrel was half empty.
Our wee film can only really tell you about a small number of interesting graves in the High Kirk Graveyard, which is free and open to the public.
So why don't you pay a visit this Halloween and see what you can discover?
And we'll see you next time on the Butte
Heritage Hunt.
Welcome to the Zander Files. The present High Kirk building was erected in 1797 and the interior was redesigned by local architect John Russell Thomas in 1905. Thomas also designed the former swimming bath building at Battery Place, which we featured back in season 1. The first post-Reformation church was built in 1692 over the ruined nave of St Mary's Chapel. That's why only a wee bit of the medieval church remains. The cemetery contains several war graves, including veterans such as the father of Benjamin Mackay, who fought at the Battle of Waterloo, and also the graves of many sailors.